Well, hello and welcome back. So, this is going to be a new little playlist of movies with a constant theme. And I am going to talk about some of my favorite movies in a certain setting, which is science fiction. And it all has to do with a tie in for 40,000, Warhammer 40,000, right? One of my favorite settings. And I'm going to go through the why of I think these movies are certain factions or what happens if, right? So let's get started into it. So, ooh, first movie, Soldier, 1998. Great year for movies. A lot of the movies that came out in the 1998, 2002, that era, fantastic. So, this is a movie starring Kurt Russell called Soldier. And they have quite a bit of just awesome, pure awesome, right? That's young Kurt Russell. It's a great movie. This is all about a soldier that was essentially abducted as an orphan to be only in the military since childbirth. And that's all he knows. Kind of like with the Astartes or with the Cadian Guard, which is what this is the Cadian Guard. And the Cadian Guard, well, until their world was destroyed, were some of the premier outside of the Death Corps of Krieg. He is the second set of soldiers come in, the new generation that are genetically enhanced and whooping in one-on-one combat in an arena, which is a great fight scene. And then it moves on to him learning how to live as a civilian on a trash world. And then after that, they, you know, the bad guys come back and get vengeance, and he has to protect all of the peasantry and be the honorable valiant guy, super giga chad, and saves everyone. And it's a really really good movie. It's a good redemption arc. It's really solid. It really really is a solid movie, and it gives Cadia like their you know best parts. The next one is what happens if you don't have a Geller field on your spaceship. It's a thing that mutes out the souls. The Geller field mutes out the souls when you're in the warp during space travel, right? So there's another movie about this whole idea, which is called Event Horizon. Now, this isn't a sanctioned 40K movie, none of these are, but essentially, this guy builds a spaceship and he's like, oh my gosh, we can fold the universe and go through the universe and pop out on the other side. I've developed this engine that allows me to do this. Well, his ship comes back and there's no one on it. And they're like, it's only been 10 minutes. Well, if you know anything about the warp, 10 minutes in the warp, especially with no Geller field, is essentially an eternity of suffering. So he goes and he sees what's going on with his ship. Well, the ship is tainted, right? It's tainted by chaos or demons or whatever it is. And yeah, that gets out of hand quick. And the rescue crew that goes in there to see what happens, they all you can just imagine you're dealing with chaos. It's not good. But there's a funny part where they do a whole part where they show his face, the main guy who made the ship, and it's essentially like if Logar went completely wild. And yeah, it's a rough watch if you don't like body horror and or horror at all. This is a horror movie, and it is fantastic. I watch it once every 10 years just to make sure I remember how awesome it is, and it still holds up. I mean, it's been a hot minute, and I still remember this movie. This is one of the first movies that gave me like true nightmares as a kid. Because '98, I was like 12, 13, something like that. And man, watching this at that time was rough. Yeah, I watch a lot of rated R films because my parents didn't, filter any of my TV, so I got to enjoy stuff. Next one up is a hot topic for everybody, which is Starship Troopers. Everybody says, oh, evil fascists, but actually they're just Greco-Roman, like, if you know anything about Greece, you kind of know that, like, you had to serve in the military to be a citizen and you had to own land. Even that carried over to Rome. So the whole point was a young man joining the military so that he could be a part of, the citizenry. Because, there was citizens and non-citizens. Anyway, the guy who made it thinks it's all about how evil fascism is, but that story has nothing to do with fascism. It has to do with, like, Greco-Roman philosophy of republics. It has nothing to do with fascism. Like, none of these people are Nazis. It makes no sense. They're his take, but that's the guy who directed the movie, not the guy who wrote the book. So the guy who wrote the book said Greco-Roman. So Greco-Roman, here we are. It has one actor that I think is fantastic, Casper Van Dien, and he did a lot of really good movies, except for like Dracula something, gets on a spaceship. It was pretty off. Oof, it was a rough watch. But this movie is iconic and it's amazing. And it takes place of a young kid in Buenos Aires who his world gets destroyed when he goes to join, his nation gets destroyed whenever he goes to join the military and fails. And he has the same hero arc of, did good and failed and rebuilt himself and became an amazing leader and all this other good stuff. And it's fantastic. Rico's Rat Pack. Like, oh man, what a good movie. It's a lot, man. You get to see somebody get their brain sucked out by a brain bug, but essentially, it's the just run of the mill Imperial Guard versus the Tyranids, which is just super cool to see those two factions because Tyranids are overpowered. They just zerg all over, and there's billions of them, and they can mutate into different things as need be. To fight the enemy at a different evolutionary standpoint. But this movie it's golden, and the other movies were not great, but this one's awesome. The follow ups were let's say Hallmark Channel version, or maybe like, I don't know, old Sci-Fi Channel before they called it Syfy. I mean, I still understand the Syfy change, just blows my mind. Syfy, like Syfy. I don't know. I'm ranting, but yeah, it bothered me. But this movie is a solid watch. I mean, if you got the time to invest, oh man, it's so good to watch the Guard, just Imperial Guard fight. Next is Screamers. Now, this movie is in 1995, and it does have RoboCop. Well, the actor who played RoboCop, and Peter Weller. It's a fantastic movie. Now, this is a very, very, very niche film, and Beckler. Becker was he was so good. Such a good character. So, this whole plot line is essentially Earth and the galactic South, so the North and the South, like Civil War, they have a fight. And they ended up developing robots and AI, which is terrifying, especially AI now. But they developed these AI robots to fight each other. And it started out as like these little saw blades that are in the ground, and they like pop out of the ground and cut your limbs off and whatever, kill you, for battle. So you don't have to lose soldiers because everybody was dying so much. And there was this giant Holocaust on this planet, and it got nuked and all sorts of crazy stuff. So it's like a desert world. And everybody's afraid of the machines, and then the machines started building more machines, and the machines machined, and they made more machines, and then the machines came realer and realer and realer over time, over like the past like 20 years or whatever of warfare, and nobody even knows what machines are out there, and they come in contact with them, and they run around, and they try to escape. It's a whole love story. Everybody falls in love. people die. It's a really good movie. I mean, if you're looking for like a action film, but this is what happens, in my opinion, during the dark age of technology, right? In 40K, there's dark age of technology. We got to our zenith in like 15, 20,000, and then in 30,000, the God Emperor shows up. But in between that time, there was a whole bunch of AI robots that killed everybody and kind of made everything kind of like really bad. And there were storms of the warp and all this other stuff. And it's a glib answer, but I mean, that's what happened. And this is fun where it takes in that little gray spot in the history of, 40K. And like I said, none of these movies are sanctioned by 40K. I hope Games Workshop doesn't sue me for saying the word, 40K. They are rough. Next is Outpost. Not this one. This one. The real one. The real Outpost. So this is, I don't know if everybody remembers like the Swedish film about, undead Nazis, but this one was a banger. This has to do with like time and space, right? And these guys go see. Ooh, that's a friendship windmill. All right, I need to get that off screen. So this is about a group of mercenaries from all around the world that are trying to find this technology, this lost technology. They don't know what they're looking for, and it gets into like this whole crazy debacle of everything. And this dude right here is this guy. He plays in some awesome movies, and he's a great actor. And I, for the love of my life, cannot remember his name. But this is all about time and space, right? So when you're messing with technology, yeah, especially like non-sanctioned technology, you can tear a hole in the warp and it starts bleeding, right? And then, in this point, Nurgle comes out, and those who are suffering and dying from sickness or plague or death, they pop out, and they just start having a lot of fun. So, yay, champions of Nurgle. Um, it's a good movie. None of the bullets work. Like they shoot all the people, and none of the bullets work. Like they try to use their bayonets, nothing works. Everybody just dies. It's freaking awesome. Um, let's see here. Now, then we're going to get up to Rebel Moon. And Rebel Moon is essentially just like what happens if a backwater world runs into the Imperium. Now, they went a little bit, how do I say, woke-ish with it. I enjoyed it. Like, I liked this movie. Like, I'm not giving you movies I did not enjoy. Both parts are really good. The second part was a little girl bossy, but this one it's solid. And they come there because they need their tithe, right? Because we know what a tithe fleet is. And they were like, hey, we need your grain. And then they were like, oh no, we don't have any grain. There's no grain here. Oh. And then they're like, well, what's all this grain? And they're like, oh yeah, I have all the grain. And so a guy dies, which is, the leader. Because why would you tell the Imperium that you didn't have the grain and then show them the grain? That part of the whole plot made no sense. But overall, the aesthetics, the visuals, the acting, it was solid, top notch. It's a good turn your brain off and watch something. Third part is when you run into gene stealers. Well, not third part, but many parts later. Gene stealers. What happens when you run into a gene stealer? Well, this movie made me feel like gene stealer cult all around, right? It's called Pandora. It has Ben Foster, which is a fantastic actor, and it has Dennis Quaid, who's a fantastic actor. So just stunning film. And I own this movie. I watch it every couple of years because it's solid, and it takes place in space. And a guy, while they're traveling, goes crazy, which is essentially what happens when you step into the warp. So the warp, made his brain go crazy, and he kind of woke some people up in the warp, and naturally they mutated. But it seems like, either warp stuff or Tyrannid gene stealer cult. It's a lot of weird body mutated stuff, which is one of my things that scares the you know stuff out of me is mutants in hallways. Oh, body mutants in hallways. I just, man, it really gets me, and I love this movie. It's difficult for me to watch, because it's scary, but oh man, it's so good. The acting's top notch. The fight scenes are amazing. They fight with all weird, broken, janky, half welded weapons. Like everything's hodgepodge together, and the aesthetics is just something. The next is Crawl Space from Australia. If you want to find this, you literally got to type Crawl Space Australia, and you'll find this movie right here, right? That right there. Oh, it's gonna start playing. Gotta go away, Prime. So this thing is fantastic. This is what happens if you have an unsanctioned psyker, right? You get psyker, and they're not sanctioned. So it takes place with the whole. It's the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie are the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie at the same time. It's kind of like I had to watch it twice to like make sense out of it, but it's you not being told the truth the whole time through the eyes of a person who wasn't told the truth. So you follow this expert military like platoon that goes through and tries to like save this military base, and the military base is just something's happening. That's all you know. Something's happening. A bunch of people are like dying, and so tons and tons of helicopters show up, which is a great shot. There's all these helicopters and jumping and all this other cool stuff. But they get there and nothing makes any sense, and everybody's losing their mind, and everybody's freaking out and seeing stuff. It's crazy. It's kind of like Event Horizon in a way. It's not a horror film; it's more of an action film. But they start running around and trying to save people and trying to get the VIP and get them and pull them out and all this other stuff, and the whole story starts unraveling. Then you get to the very end and you're like, OMG, the movie I watched and what I thought is totally wrong, it was actually this totally different story. And you're like, oh wait, I gotta watch it all again. You watch it again and you're like, oh my god, I see it from the beginning. I'm literally got like jebaited pretty bad, and the actual story is phenomenal. But you got like I had to watch it twice because I'd suggest everybody watches it twice back to back. Like it is wild. It's like watching The Usual Suspects, where you get done with The Usual Suspects and you're like, wait, and you go rewatch the movie and you're like, oh my gosh, the whole time I got jebaited. So those are the movies that I would suggest. At least I was going to make this a little bit short because I'm going to record some more and try to get some game footage, but I wanted to give you guys like at least like 20 minutes of thought process. So if you wanted to watch like some 40K adjacent movies, um that I would suggest it because it's uh it's quite a watch, and they're a lot of fun, and yeah, I would suggest. I'm gonna put up here, see if I can get it to come on screen. A list. No, maybe not. Well, well, okay. So we'll go through. Number one was Soldier with Kurt Russell, 1998. Event Horizon with Sam Neill and Lawrence Fishburne. Starship Troopers, Casper Van Dien. Screamers, Peter Weller. Outpost, can't remember his name, saved my life. Pandorum, Ben Foster, Dennis Quaid. And Crawl Space, a whole bunch of no-name actors that made it a fantastic movie. So I hope you guys enjoyed all of that. I hope that y'all will watch some of these movies, right? And thanks for sticking around. That's a solid 20 minutes of my opinions. I got told I had a wonderful voice and people liked to hear me talk uh, by a friend at work that's also a subscriber. So thank you. But I'm not going to say your name, but do appreciate you and your brother sitting around and watching. And I hope that everything is to your liking, man. And you know, those are some good movies that I'd watch. I'll talk about some other films. I have way too many movies. I could just sit here with all my VHS tapes and read the back of them and you show you picture art or whatever. But well, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I'm trying to get to be more of a professional. I made this art so everybody could have new, fresh art, and it's a little janky, but it functions. All right, y'all have a good night.